A lion escaped from its cage. Everyone ran, but one little girl just sat there, and what that lion did next changed everything. Nobody knew her name that morning. By the end of the day, the whole world was talking about her. It was supposed to be a normal day at the zoo. Families walking around, kids eating ice cream, parents taking pictures. The kind of day where nothing interesting happens and you go home a little tired and a little bored. But then the cage broke open, and a full-grown lion walked out. The screaming started instantly. People dropped everything, strollers, bags, food, and ran as fast as their legs could carry them. Zoo staff were shouting into radios. Parents were grabbing their children mid-step. In seconds, the entire area around that enclosure went from crowded and noisy to almost completely empty. Almost, because one girl didn't run. Her name was Maya. She was 11 years old, and she just sat there, cross-legged on the ground, completely still, looking directly at the lion as it walked toward her. The zoo workers watching from a distance were terrified. One of them later said he thought he was about to watch something horrible happen. He had his tranquilizer ready. His hands were shaking. Everyone was frozen, not knowing what to do, because the moment they made a loud move, it could trigger the lion to attack. So they watched, and the lion kept walking toward Maya. Now, before we go further, you have to understand something about lions. These are not animals you mess around with. A male lion can weigh over 400 pounds. Their bite is strong enough to crush bone. In the wild, lions are ambush hunters. They're built to chase, to pounce, to take down animals much bigger than a human child. This was not a small young cub. This was a zoo lion, yes, but still a wild animal with wild instincts. And it was loose. And it was moving directly toward an 11-year-old girl sitting alone on the ground. Every logical thought in your head says, this should not end well. But here's what the cameras caught, and this is the part that made the video go viral and racked up over 1 million views in just a few days. The lion walked right up to Maya, got within a few feet of her, sniffed the air, and then it stopped. It lowered its head, and it lay down on the ground in front of her. Not attacking, not growling, not even tense. It just lay there, like a house cat settling in for a nap. Maya slowly reached her hand out, and the lion let her touch its head. People watching from behind barriers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some were crying, some were laughing out of pure shock. One woman said she thought she was dreaming. A zoo worker later described it as the most unbelievable thing he'd seen in 15 years, working with animals. But here's the question everyone started asking. Why? Why did this lion not attack? What made Maya different from everyone else who ran? And the answer, when it came out, was not what anyone expected. Maya had a secret. She had been visiting this zoo every single week for almost 2 years. Not with school trips, not with her parents on weekends. She came on her own, or with her grandmother, and she always went to the same place. The lion enclosure. She would sit near the fence, quiet and still, and just watch the lion. She talked to it softly. She never made sudden moves. She never threw things or screamed or tried to get a reaction. She just was there, week after week, calm, quiet, consistent. The lion's name was Kovu, and Kovu had seen Maya dozens of times before that day. Animal behaviorists who studied the footage later explained something really interesting. Lions, like many large predators, respond strongly to energy and movement. When something runs, their instinct says chase. When something is calm and non-threatening, their instinct says this is not prey. Maya had spent months training herself, without even knowing it, to speak the lion's language. Not with words, with stillness. One expert said, and I'm paraphrasing here, and that what Maya did was essentially what experienced wildlife handlers spend years trying to learn. She wasn't being brave in the way people think about bravery. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She was just doing what felt natural to her, because she genuinely loved that animal, and Kovu recognized her. Think about that for a second. In the middle of chaos, sirens, screaming, people running everywhere, Kovu walked past all of that and went straight to the one person who had always been calm around him, the one person who never made him feel like a threat or a spectacle. That is not a small thing. There's actually a lot of science behind this. Studies on animal cognition, especially with big cats, show that these animals are far more emotionally aware than most people give them credit for. They recognize faces. They remember individuals. They pick up on emotional cues in ways we're still trying to fully understand. A Duanidamanain study from a university in Japan found that cats, even domestic ones, can tell the difference between their owner's voice and a stranger's voice, and respond differently based on emotional tone alone. Now scale that up to a lion that's been watching the same calm, gentle girl sit near his enclosure for almost 2 years. Of course he recognized her. Of course he wasn't afraid of her. The zoo had to carefully and slowly get Kovu back into his enclosure. a process that took about 40 minutes. Tranquilizers were not needed. The zookeepers used food and familiar sounds, and Kovu went back in without any resistance. Maya stayed seated the entire time until a zookeeper gently guided her away. Her grandmother, who had brought her that day, was apparently sitting on a bench, not far away during the whole thing, and only realized what happened after the fact because she had dozed off. When someone shook her awake and showed her the video on their phone, she reportedly burst into tears. Maya's story ended up everywhere. News channels, social media, documentary requests. But what Maya said in a short interview afterward was the part that stuck with people. She said, and this is a quote, "I wasn't scared because he knew me, and I knew him. We were just friends." 11 years old, and somehow understanding something that takes most adults a lifetime to figure out. That real connection is built slowly, quietly, and without expectations. That you don't earn trust by being loud or impressive. You earn it by showing up again and again and just being present. There's something in that which goes way beyond lions and zoos. Think about the relationships in your own life, the ones that actually last, the ones where you feel safe. They're never built in one dramatic moment. They're built in 100 small, quiet ones. Maya didn't plan to go viral. She didn't sit by that fence because she wanted something from Kovu. She did it because she cared, and that care came back to her in the most unexpected way possible. In the middle of a crowded zoo, in front of hundreds of shocked strangers, a wild lion chose peace over panic because of a bond no one else even knew existed. The zoo later announced they were creating a formal program, inspired by Maya, where children with anxiety or emotional difficulties could visit calm observation sessions near animal enclosures as a form of gentle therapy. Early results from similar programs in Europe have shown real reductions in stress and improvements in emotional regulation in kids who participate regularly. Maya visits Kovu every week still. Nothing has changed, except now the whole world knows her name. If this story gave you chills, the next video on your screen right now will do exactly the same thing. Go watch it.